you're so beautiful. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're gonna discuss my all-time favorite books. The books that I've read recently, years of the past, across the years of my reading life. I've had slumps over the years. However, these books are still with me until today. I would be sitting, drinking my tea or coffee, and I would think about something that happened in those books, randomly, out of nowhere. These books touched me on a deeper level. They impacted my personality in a way or another. They changed how I read. They changed how I see things. They made a huge difference in my life. And today, I want to chat with you about them, ramble on them, and hopefully get you excited to pick one of them or more. So, the first book I want to talk to you about is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is my #1 favorite author. I've discovered his books, I think in 2020. I started the journey from Warbreaker, Mistborn, and then I dived into Stormlight. And of all his books, I've given all his books like 5 stars without doubt. But this one, Words of Radiance, it gets 6 stars. Stormlight Archive is deep, complex. It has an insanely good world building. The character depth in that series is out of this world. You don't get hooked from the first pages, I would say, because this is only the second book, and each book in that series is around I think around 1,000 pages and more. And please don't get intimidated by that, because it's a word. Oh, my hands are cramping from holding that book. Anyways, do not get intimidated by the sheer size of these books, because Sanderson's writing is very fluid. It takes you from one point to another. It pushes you through the story. It gets you hooked and it gets you invested, and all of a sudden you feel like you're part of that world, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So Stormlight is basically takes place in this, on a planet somewhere. I'm trying to not spoil anything, so I'm just gonna give you like bits and pieces. And the world is ruled by these cosmic event storms that happens, and the storms somehow turn into magic. And you have knights, you have a war, civil war going on, you have a very deeply complex, tormented characters in that series. The Way of Kings is a build-up. It introduces you to the world. It introduces you to the characters. It builds the momentum of the story, but the action starts here. And it takes you from one point to another, from one action scene to another, from one plot twist to another, and it's insane. It's insane. It's filled with politics, it's filled with emotions, it's filled with so much. I don't have words for how much I love this book, and how in between the lines you would find yourself in those characters, and you would see so much of the struggles that we go through as human beings every single day reflected in the struggles of those people. You would see a lot of the inner struggles that we go through, mental illnesses, childhood experiences, adult problems. It's it's all there. It's all there. Woven with magic, fantasy, science fiction, action. It's so good. It's so good. I'm not very good with saying and blurbing books, but this one, it's so worth the read. And honestly, I love how Sanderson not only guides you through the world with his writing, he guides you through the world with some very interesting illustration. I'm trying to find one over here. Yeah, there we go. So you have these sketches while you read in the story to explain the different plants that exist in the world, the different creatures that exist in the world, the different nature elements, because he created everything. He created everything from the smallest member of this universe to the largest person, and to the gods. It's all there. It's all there. You'll find everything you want and crave in a fantasy book, novel, series, in his works, in this series in particular. And of all the 4 books released in Stormlight Archive, Words of Radiance is my favorite because of how it kept me on edge the entire reading experience. So I'll stop blabbering about it for now and move on to the next book. The next book I want to talk to you about is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. Pierce Brown is my second all-time favorite author. His series Red Rising took me a while to get into. So Red Rising is about this bloodbath space opera war that takes place across different planets in the solar system. And basically the story starts in Mars, and you have the society is divided into different colors according to their social standards and position in this world, and powers, and how they are built as a human. This is a deeply impacted political series. It's so much of our history as a collective world is woven into that story. It's inspired by a lot of the science fiction classics. It's inspired by the Roman Empire. It has a lot of I want to say sarcastic and dark comedy woven in between. Like, you would be reading a scene and you would understand what Pierce Brown, the message he's trying to get to, and you would know that he is sarcastically weaving in the commentary he wants to say. This series is divided into 2 arcs. The first arc is 3 books. You have Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star. We follow our main character, Darrow, through his journey into that story. I'm not gonna dive deep because honestly, go into it without spoilers, without knowing what it's about. Just know that you will be in the treat. And then the second arc starts from Iron Gold, Dark Age, Lightbringer, and hopefully we get Red God soon. The second arc is inspired by the Arabs Revolution. It's very smart. It's so well done and so well written and so well reflected. The tyranny, the rise to power, the war, the civil wars, everything is so well done. And Iron Gold in particular shines through all the other books in the series, because for me, I loved how Pierce's writing shifted in that installment. We get introduced to different point of views, so you move on from Darrow's point of view to a very 360-degree point of view to the story. So you start seeing other planets and you start seeing other characters from other social classes and how they behave and how they take part into the conflict. And it's so interesting and it's so immersive and it's so, I want to say cinematic in a way, like the action scene, the war battles, it's so cinematic and so intense. It's amazing. It's such a unique experience and it's really one of a kind. It's very heavily on the science fiction elements. However, for me, it didn't feel confusing after I got into Red Rising. It took me a couple of years to get into Red Rising. I remember DNFing that book in 2015 and then picking it up again because my friend was like, no, please give it a second chance because it's worth it. And I gave it a second chance, loved it, binged through the first, and then waited for the release of Dark Age. That book destroyed me, and then I've waited for years for Lightbringer, came out, destroyed me, and now I'm back to waiting for Red Gut. So now we're done with my first books, and now we're gonna move on to, I want to say, lighter reads. They're not actually light, however, they are more on the whimsical and comfort reads, if I want to say. I want to talk to you now about The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I've read these books multiple times across the years. Every single time I picked them up, I would fall in love all over again with her writing. Her writing is lyrical, beautiful, and poetic. It truly immerses you into this other world. It feels like you opened the portal to a whimsical land and you just don't want to leave. You want to stay there and be with the characters and be a part of her words. Her books doesn't necessarily follow a plot, I want to say, but you get the vibe. They're more of a vibe read, especially The Starless Sea. Like with The Night Circus, we have a very clear, direct plot from the beginning. We have rivals to lovers. It's not actually enemies to lovers. It's more rivals to lovers. We have a circus that shows up out of nowhere, and you know when your eyes sparkle and you feel like, oh, I want to see that. Yeah, that's it. It's every tent in that circus was an experience on its own. Every competition our rivals go through is an experience of its own. It's amazing, it's beautiful, it's filled with magic, it's filled with heart, and it's a one-of-a-kind experience. I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook as well, because the audiobook of this one is amazing. And for The Starless Sea, it's basically, you get these painted doors, and you open the doors and you visit this underground library, and the library has like magical books, and I'm not gonna say more. I'm not gonna spoil it. It's a magical experience. It's beautiful. I have the key here. Hopefully that will lead me someday to The Starless Sea. And we follow our main character, Zachary. He's searching for his place in the world, and his journey is beautiful. I've read this multiple times, and honestly, I plan on rereading these this fall and annotating them more, because I did not annotate The Starless Sea. I annotated a little bit in The Night Circus, but I want to go full on the experience. It's beautiful. I said beautiful multiple times, but yeah, you get the point. Yeah, and now, what do we talk about now? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about this one, my all-time favorite historical fiction, The Shadow of the Wind. This series is about basically a cemetery of forgotten books. It's an underground cemetery that turned into a library that kept thousands and thousands of books protected from the war. And this particular family is charged with protecting this cemetery. And in The Shadow of the Wind, we follow Daniel through the labyrinth of the library, discovering his all-time favorite book and then discovering his all-time favorite author. And then he goes on to this journey to find out what happened to this author and why he's not publishing his books anymore. It's amazing. It's truly a very human experience to read that book. And the other installment in that series are interconnected to that one. However, they're not. Each installment follows one generation of this family, or someone related to a different generation in that family. So they all connect. It does make a difference to read them in the order with what they were published. So I would start with Shadow of the Wind, then Angel's Game, and then Prisoner of Heaven, and then The Labyrinth of Spirits, because that way you get the full experience of being a part of this journey and growing with the characters and getting those small Easter eggs in the story. I would call this magical, but not in a fantasy element. I would call it magical in the sense that you actually tend to forget you're reading while reading that book. And so actually, Stephen King says here, he says, Shadow is the real deal. A novel full of cheesy splendor and creaking trapdoors. A novel where even the subplots have subplots. In Zafon's hands, every scene seems to come from an early Orson Welles movie. One gorgeous read. This is gorgeous. Read it. You need this in your life because it's amazing. And then, The Name of the Wind. I honestly struggle to describe how I feel about this book other than for me, it felt like a time travel experience. It's not time travel, but for me, it felt like the minute I opened the page, I was transported to this time and place where I would only want to sit and listen to Koth's story. Koth? He says right here how to spell his name, but I tend to forget. The writing is beautiful. The story is honestly unique, but not that unique, but it feels original at the same time. It's perfect for fall, and the way the magic is woven in with writing and lyrics and music, and it's a unique experience. I really hope we get the third book soon, because I've been saving the second book for a very long time now. I don't want to read the second book until we have at least an announcement for the third book, because I don't want to be waiting. I want to have something on my shelves to read. And honestly, it's amazing. It's very deep in how you go through his growth as a human being. In this book, you go through his journey in the academy. You learn with him how to be a part of this world, and it's such an experience. Let me show you my special edition for these. Okay, I'll be back. So, we have here this gorgeous edition. Golan's released these editions last year, and honestly, I've never bought anything faster. It has, let me remove the dust jacket so nothing happens to it. There's art in here and art in here, and these editions are and number it. So there are only 1,000 signed copies of these editions, and I have copy number 820. I don't know if anyone cares about this, but this is like a precious thing for me. And truly, I love collecting these editions. And honestly, I've been itching to reread this book for a while now, and I'm trying to resist, because if I reread my favorite books over and over again, I cannot discover new favorite books. So I'm gonna read the paragraph on the back of this edition. It says, "I've stolen princesses back from sleeping Barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. I have spent the night with the Florian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread path by moonlight that others fear to speak of during day. I have talked to gods, loved women, and written songs that make the minstrels weep. My name is Koth. You may have heard of me." His story is one of a kind. And this is the edition for the second book, The Wise Man's Fear. I haven't read that one yet, but I'm gonna show it off nonetheless. We have this art, and we have this sword. And I think this is, this is copy 165 of the 1,000. Yay! So yeah, the small things that makes us happy. And next, honestly, I think this is expected of me to talk about the series that got me into reading. And yeah, it's Harry Potter. Yeah, I'm from the generation that read Harry Potter when I was 11 or 12. And I remember reading them in French first. And then when Deathly Hallows was coming out, I reread the entire thing in English, just because the translation would be late. And over the years, my favorite in those books shifted as I grew. And at first, it was Prisoner of Azkaban. And honestly, until this day, I love Prisoner of Azkaban. And then it moved on to Order of the Phoenix. And the past couple of years, I've discovered that Goblet of Fire is my number one favorite in the series now, because I relate so much on an adult kind of level to the events that goes on into this installment. I love the thrill of the competition. I love the thrill of the tournament and the action and the tension. I love how the adults react in that book in particular. I love the different characters that are introduced in that point, and I love the turning point of that story in the sense that it doesn't feel like a children's story anymore. It feels like more of an adult story now, and the stakes are higher, the mood is darker. It's amazing. I love turning points in stories, and last year when I think last year or the year before when I reread, I felt that I connected so much to Goblet of Fire. And yeah, so now Goblet of Fire is my favorite. And yeah, and now we're gonna move on to a Greek mythology that I've loved so much. It's Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Jennifer Saint's writing is very descriptive. It's musical in the sense that you feel that someone is singing the book to you, not just telling you a story. This tells the story of a princess of Crete, daughter of the fearsome king of Minos. Ariadne and her sister grow up hearing the terrible bellows of the Minotaur from the labyrinth beneath the palace. The Minotaur, their brother, he demands blood every year. And then Ariadne falls in love with the Prince of Athens, and then you go on a story of betrayal, love, magic, and motherhood. And this book touched me on a level that I never thought I would connect to a Greek character in that way. I feel that Greek mythology retellings should be read in the right time and the right moment. And for me, Ariadne came to me in a moment where I was about to become a mother, and that, okay, there's a spoiler now, you could skip like a second now. The scenes where she becomes a mother are like absolutely beautiful. They're amazing. They transported me into this world where I truly felt like a mother. It touched me on that soul kind of level. And for that reason, this book will always remain on my all-time favorite books of all time, because you don't get touched on that level often. And yeah, that book did that to me. It's honestly, I love Greek mythology, and I love how you could see like real-time reflection of our world in those stories, but at the same time you could see the differences, and you could see how humans behave and have behaved for all time. And it's truly a unique experience to read those stories. And now I want to talk to you about this genius of a book, The Will of the Many by James Islington. I've read James's other series and loved it, The Shadow of What Was Lost. It's called the Likeness Trilogy, and it was absolutely amazing. So naturally, I picked up The Will of the Many. For the first 150 pages, I was confused. I was like, oh, wait, back up a step. And I'm not the person who would go back and reread paragraphs, but with that one, I did that a lot, because the world building is a bit confusing at first, but, and there's a big but coming, when you get to that point where the world clicks, oh my god, it's amazing. It's amazing. The politics and the stakes and the dark academia vibe and the school setting, and it's all amazing. It's the final 200 pages of this, or 150, they left me reeling. And honestly, until now, I'm like, I need the second book right now. So I would advise you to pick this one up whenever we have a news on the second book, because the cliffhanger is painful. However, it's honestly, I love reading books about humanity and hierarchies and tyranny and how society is divided and how we as humans behave in that division. And it's always eye-opening, and it impacts how I see the world. And this one was absolutely amazing. And I see so many blurbs on the back. They say it's fast-paced, it's intricate, it's expensive, and the mysteries and the world building are such a delight, and I 100% agree. And someone says here it's reminiscent of Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson. I can say for Robert Jordan because I haven't read The Wheel of Time yet, but I would say it kind of does remind me of Brandon Sanderson's writings, particularly in that one. So many people are comparing this to Red Rising, and I see why, but it's not a valid comparison, because while Red Rising is very deeply influenced by the science fiction element and the political element, this one has more magic woven in with the science fiction and the politics, and there's a difference. Do not compare them. And now we're going to talk about this, Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, the third and final installment to the Greenbone saga, and the book that destroyed me. It utterly destroyed me. It left me like sobbing and crying. I couldn't breathe. It's that kind of book. It's very rare to get like very ugly tears out of me while reading. this book got so many ugly tears out of me while reading. And this series is amazing. I'm not a person who loves gangs and guns and clans and all of that, but Fonda Lee's writing is original, one of a kind. It presented the plot and the story that she wanted to tell in a very catchy way, and the whole concept of Jade City is mind-blowing, and the characters shines in a way that you do not understand the point where you started loving and caring for those characters, but you would get to a point where something happens to them and you find yourself like, no, I do not accept this. Do not touch my favorite person. And then why is that person my favorite now? I do not understand. It's an experience, it's a ride, it's a wild ride, it's emotional, it's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, and it's fulfilling, and it's satisfying, and you get from one punch to your soul to another, from one plot twist to another, and it's so well done, and it's so epic, and its stakes are high. No one is safe, no one is protected with those books, and yeah, this will forever remain on my all-time favorites because of how it destroyed me. And next we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And this book, I did not expect to love it as much as I did. It's such... People compare this to The Secret History, and I've hated The Secret History. Do not get me started. This is a story for another day. And I thought The Secret History was boring. I thought it did not have any, flesh to it. But this, 6 stars. Absolutely amazing. Excellent points for the Dark Academia vibes. Excellent points for the character buildings and the world building and the plot and the suspense and the writing and the Shakespeare reflections, and it's amazing. I've read this book with my friend. She annotated it for me, and I plan on picking this up soon again to reread and see how I feel about it now. It talks about rivalry, it talks about friendship, it talks about very unorthodox things, and it's amazing. I do not stand by its comparison to The Secret History, although I do understand why people compare it to it. But when it comes to the essence of the book, this is much better. This is amazing. This is perfect. Read it now. September and October are coming. It's time to pick this up. And now, for the final books on my all-time favorite. I have to mention these. I'm sorry. I know so many people are not gonna like me mentioning this, but A Court of Mist and Fury is my all-time favorite. It's gonna stay my all-time favorite. This book puts me in such... It brings me comfort to read the story of those characters. It brings me comfort to be with them. It's such a joy. Look at how much I annotated. I connect with this story so much, and it's one of those books that put me out of the slump after college, and I'm forever grateful for that. And Tower of Dawn. Tower of Dawn is a healing experience. Tower of Dawn is such a unique take on character writing and world expansion, and it's truly amazing. I will die on the hill of the fact that Throne of Glass is so much better than any other of this author's work. and it's worth the read, it's worth experiencing, it's so grand and it's amazing. However, I'll stop here. I'll not blabber about these books because, yeah, we're stopping. And the final book I want to talk to you about today is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I'm gonna cry because I love this book so much. Okay, so let me tell you a story. And this story goes on back in 2014, 13, 15, I don't remember exactly. I came across the Mortal Instruments movie, the one that has Jamie and Lily Collins in it. And I still think that this movie was an amazing adaptation of City of Bones. I loved it. I wish they continued on the same level because it was amazing. And I was like, oh wow, I want more of this. So I remember going to the bookstore, picking up City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, and The Infernal Devices. I flew through these books, and then I flew through the first 3 Mortal Instruments installments, and then I picked up The Infernal Devices, and I was obsessed. I was obsessed. This is an urban fantasy world where each series handles the story of one generation of these demon hunters, and you get the entire package. You get love, you get romance, you get torment and angst and very emotional abuse to you as a reader, because the way I fell in love with the characters from Clockwork Angel, and then I started feeling this undying connection to them in Clockwork Prince, and then being utterly devastated and destroyed in Clockwork Princess, is insane. And I thought that this was a thing for Noha, the teenager, back in 2016 and 17. But I've reread these books last year, and they gave me the same exact emotional punch that I needed, that I craved. I cannot describe how much this series tugs at my heart, and it makes me emotional just thinking about some parts of these books, because it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so, I wouldn't say lyrical, I would say heart-warming in a sense. It has a love triangle, because I want to put that out there, but it's one of the best love triangles you will ever read in your entire reading experience, journey, whatever. This, I will die on this hill, because while I ship one side of the triangle, I do ship the other side as well, because it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's so well done. It's so emotional, and it's so touching in a way. Like, I want to read to you a line that is not gonna like spoil anything for you. So one of the characters, he plays the violin in this story, and honestly, the scenes where he plays the violin are so beautiful. You could practically hear the music in your head while reading. And here, he says, "Both my parents loved music. My father played the violin, my mother the quin. I chose the violin, though I could have learned either. I regret it sometimes, for there are melodies of China I cannot play on the violin, that my mother would have liked me to know. She used to tell me the story of Yu Boya, who was a great player of the quin. He had a best friend, a woodcutter named Zongziki, I think I said this wrong, and he would play for him. They say that when Yoboya played a song of water, his friend would know immediately that he was describing rushing rivers. And when he played of mountains, Ziki would see their peaks, and Yoboya would say, it is because you understand my music." When I played You Saw What I Saw, you understand my music. You understand? Oh! Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I'm not gonna gush about this anymore. However, if you feel intimidated by Cassandra Clare's books and the amount of books included in the Shadowhunter series, I would say The Infernal Devices is worth it. It's worth it. Trust me. Just read these 3 books, and if you feel like continuing, go ahead, continue. If you don't feel like it, don't, because this is enough. It introduces you to the world through Tessa's eyes. It takes you on this wild demon hunt, good versus evil fight, and it's such a classic, and it's so good, so good. And yeah, I'm going to stop here. I'm gonna go continue my cup of tea, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I did not ramble as much as I think I did. I've been talking for a long time now, and I hope that you felt encouraged to pick any of these up, because I absolutely love every single book I've included on this list, and I'm sure that more books will join the list as I read more, and hopefully I'll be able to do another all-time favorite soon. And with that, I'll leave you to it. Keep reading, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!